You're watching She's Gone Country, growing up on the Christensen Brothers Rodeo Ranch. Becky and Vicki are sharing the roots of rodeo and connecting the generations with stories behind the stories of our rich Western heritage. Keeping the spirit of the American Cowboy and Cowgirl alive, they are the CB Cowgirls.
Well, happy Friday. Good morning and welcome to Roper Cowboy Marketplace. We are She's Gone Country and we are the CB Cowgirls. I'm your host, Becky, and this is my beautiful co-host and aunt, Vicki.
Good morning, Becky. It's Friday. It's Red Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Time to salute our veterans. Remember to wear red, our first responders.
Yes.
How thankful we are for all of them.
And, you know, we are on the final stretch today and tomorrow, and the NFR is going to be all over with, and it'll be on to the Christmas holidays. Wow, it's been a really, really quick 10, 12 days. Well, that's how long I've been down here. I've been down here since last Monday, so
exactly.
A week from Monday. But we're here at Roper Cowboy Marketplace, and we are filming for the Cowboy Channel. So if we take a few breaks and say we'll be right back, don't go anywhere because we're not going anywhere. We're just taking a break.
We will be right back. We promise.
We've had some great guests and we've had some great sponsors. So I just really quickly want to first say thank you to our presenting sponsor, Boyd Gaming. They host us over at the Orleans every year, and they're just gracious and are so kind with all that they do. They had the Boyd Gaming Shootout. They're doing the all-in barrel racing again. I think it's in a qualifier this year for the American on Sunday.
I believe so.
Yeah, so that'll be fun.
A lot of action going on out there.
We had the World of Rodeo Reunion Gathering. Aunt Vicki was honored as one of the many women in rodeo that has contributed so much. So I was really excited to be able to go over there and see that. New things to the show this year. We had a fashion show, and with that being said, I want to bring on our beautiful ambassador, Miss Bobbie Jeen Olson, Miss Icon of Fashion, as you can see.
Welcome,
Hi,
Bobbie.
Oh, you know what, ladies? I am so honored to be gracing this stage with you each day that I get to come on, and just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of the CB Cowgirls. I love you both so much.
Well, we love you, and we
do.
We have to tell you, this girl, when you put her in the fire, she comes out golden because she put together a fashion show in no time at all when we found out that Aunt Vicki was going to be honored, and we both couldn't be on the stage, but we didn't want our show to not air, so she stepped up and really pulled through. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Bobbie.
Well, it was a blast, and we had some amazing cowgirls and cowboys that were a part of it. So I think we kind of kicked off Las Vegas for the 2017 Wrangler National Finals Rodeo fabulously.
Absolutely.
And we got to showcase some great clotheslines and Western fashion, and one of those was one of our sponsors, American Hats. So we want to say thank you to American Hats for always dressing us in the best hats. Trace Rios, my daughter got to model Trace Rios, which is over in Cowboy Christmas, and that's Vicki's my cousin, Brett and Keeley.
That's right. It's a family business.
Family business.
And Brett and Keeley are in booth 511 at Cowboy Christmas. So if you get a chance to get over to the convention center, please swing by and say hello.
Yep. And so Wild Instincts, Cactus Rose, that's who dresses us. And so thanks so much to those vendors for all they do for us. And of course, I want to say thank you to Gray Mapston Horseshoeing Hammers, because he's also one of our main sponsors this year. So we've got some great sponsors and we've got some great guests. So let's go ahead and talk about our guests for today and bring them up there. I'm going to let you introduce our first guest, Aunt Vicki.
Okay, Becky, thank you so much. You know, we first met our first guest several years ago, and he was working on a dream, something that had been laid on his heart, and it is complete. It's out, and we are so happy to welcome back to the CB Cowgirl stage Justin Koehler, and he is the filmmaker who did the documentary Floating Horses, and that is the life of Casey Tibbs.
How's it going, Justin?
It's going great. Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you back. I mean, it's been such a fun process over the last few years to be part of watching, this documentary unfold and all you've been through. And you are definitely a testament to perseverance and really believing in a message and a story. So, would you share with our audience and our viewers at home a little bit about your project and what it's all about?
Sure.
And make sure you hold that mic up because I got to hear you back there.
Definitely. I produced a documentary film about rodeo legend Casey Tibbs. It's called Floating Horses, The Life of Casey Tibbs. I myself, I'm originally from South Dakota. I grew up on a ranch. I'd gone to rodeos as a kid, so I'd heard of Casey Tibbs, maybe just the cliff notes, if you will. Probably what every standard South Dakotan knows about Casey, that his importance to rodeo, his importance to the state of South Dakota. he was a good-looking guy, and he was an incredible bronc rider. That's probably where my limits went on who he was. But now, after 3.5 years of working on this film, I probably know stuff that I'll have to take to the grave with me.
Well, and we're excited to hear some of those stories, so I just want to give a quick introduction before we bring on our next guest. So I want to bring our next guest on, and she is also returning to our stage after a couple of years, and that is Miss Almeda Bradshaw. And Almeda is a country western musician, get my tongue untied, and hails from Montana, where I'm from, and she has just become a fan favorite and one of our dear friends. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we're just going to sit here and visit and kind of have a little roundtable discussion. And, with everyone, we all share the same roots. We love the Western lifestyle, and we love, being able to live in the country. Even if we live in the city, our heart can belong in the country. So, Justin, let's get back to your story a little bit. And you kind of laid the foundation. Tell us a little bit more about Floating Horses.
Well, obviously it's about Casey Tibbs, and when I first looked at it, the obvious is there. Anybody can go online and Google Casey Tibbs. You can see he's a multi-world champion cowboy. Again, his importance to the sport of rodeo. And that's obviously important. That's what put him on his pedestal. But I wanted to go deeper. I thought it was important as a storyteller and as an unbiased storyteller to really look at who Casey Tibbs was, not just as the cowboy, but as the man. And not a lot of people know that side of him, and it takes a lot of work to dig into there, and that's why we interviewed 31 people for the film of all walks, from both of his ex-wives to Charlie Daniels to Deb Copenhaver to Billy Ettbauer to Stephen Ford, Gerald Ford's son, Wyatt McCrae, who's sitting right down in here. So that's who he was. He was a person that just wasn't rodeo. He transcended rodeo. And it showed by the people he took his time to be with and who he sort of ran with, if you will. So that was important to me to dive into who he was as a man and what made him tick, what drove him, what, the sad parts of his life, the happy parts of his life, because you see a person like him up on a pedestal and he's the god of rodeo, of saddle bronc riding. But there's things that go on behind the scenes that sometimes are not talked about, and a lot of people don't know. And to me, that's what was important.
And now he was actually dubbed kind of the Babe Ruth of rodeo, and I saw that in there. And yes, flamboyant, handsome, spectacular when you thought of him. But like you said, there was a real person behind all of that fame. And so tell us a little bit about the actual man.
Well, Casey was definitely flamboyant.
Yeah.
He wore purple, which still, amazingly, I never really quite figured out where purple came from. I know his mother liked it, but I never got a for sure of whether or not that's where it came from. He worked on Wild West shows, and in my opinion, I think, you think about a Wild West show, and somebody way up in the stands has to see that person performing, and what did they do? They had very colorful, flamboyant costumes, and I think Casey took that as part of his appearance and how he went out to perform and compete, that not only is he just a beautiful bronc rider, but he wanted people to know when Casey Tibbs was on the stage, he was there. And he was just an incredible marketer. I can only imagine what he'd be like today. Imagine Casey on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook.
Wow,
it's
that
a little
would be
frightening.
wild.
But he would be a megastar today. I have no doubt about that, because he was back then. And think about how less media there was, and he was everywhere. But he was a great man. He had his challenges and he had his flaws, but he also did so much for the sport of rodeo. He loved kids. He never turned down kids. He would go to hospitals. And a lot of that stuff never made it, into the press as much as it probably would now.
Right.
But an interesting man, definitely, to say the least.
Well, Almeda, you were going to jump in there with something. Go
Well,
ahead.
I was just going to make some cute comment like he might have rivaled Trump.
I was thinking the same thing. Great minds, great
Good
minds.
one, good one.
And it's funny because, he was fun, and he was out there. He was very much outspoken, appearance and word and action. And I've heard some great tales from Deb Copenhaver, and I'll share those a little bit later. But what I love about having you both here today is you're both storytellers. You're just in different forms of storytelling. But it's always about the Western way of life and where we come from and our roots, you being from South Dakota, Montana. And I'm really excited to get in a little bit more detail about, Almeda, your latest projects and what you're doing and everything that goes on in your world. Because I saw you down in Pendleton this year performing on the stage. And we are here, we're on the last couple days of the WNFR. And so we're visiting with a couple special friends of ours that they've joined us in the past. And we just really love what they represent and what they're doing in the Western world and rodeo, and so we'd like to have him back. And you know, our first guest, of course, is Justin Koehler, and he is did produce the film that has just been released, Floating Horses, The Life of Casey Tibbs, and of course our beautiful friend and musician, Almeda Bradshaw. And one thing I wanted to touch on real quick before we get too far into it is for those of you that are here in Vegas for the next 2 days, I know they played it the first weekend, but they are playing your documentary over at the Orleans. And is it Friday? Is it today and tomorrow?
Today and tomorrow at 2 o'clock at the Orleans, yes.
And
so
it's a free showing. And if you haven't seen it and you want to just kind of slide back into a comfortable chair and get out of the bright lights and the noise, this will definitely take you to a different era, a different time, and you'll be able to see what a master Justin is, putting together this great story about this great cowboy that is such an important part of our rodeo history.
And I'm really excited because I have not got to see the movie. We were going to take Deb to the premiere in Ellensburg, and he fell ill, and I was in Missoula, and so it's just a little bit too far to travel in the fall, so we stayed home. But you've seen the movie. I have not seen the movie, so I know where I'm going to be tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I'm going to go watch the movie.
Yeah, me too.
Well, you won't be disappointed. And you know, Justin gave me a call. My husband and I, we live in Marble Falls, Texas, and he said, hey, they're going to go ahead and do a premiere with the Hill Country Film Festival, my documentary, and it'll be in Fredericksburg. And I said, hey, we're there, Justin. And we just had a great time. We did some interviews. You can find them on YouTube. And fabulous. It just, as you know, a rodeo brat growing up on a stock contracting ranch and hearing my folks tell tales of Casey coming out to the ranch, I was like a kid in a candy shop at Fredericksburg. It's like, I can't wait to see this movie.
You know, this film is just touching so many lives, just like what Vicki said. You know, from hearing the stories, and you are just bringing them back for so many to cherish and really get to know the true man. Now, I have a little bit of a passion for film, and this is not an easy process. Can you tell us a little bit? I mean, you have to get the funding, you have to get, there's so many steps to getting a film made. How many years have you been trying to get it filmed and get it out there?
Well, all in all, from production to post-production, it took about 3.5 years, which sounds like a lot, but for a documentary, that's actually not too bad. I had to produce it just in my spare time. I have a full-time job. I work for a production company in Denver. I'm the director of photography there and a producer. So that's what pays the bills. And so I would have to, find my own time to edit this film, to go out and shoot interviews for this film. So when it came to fundraising and budget, I mean, as I said, I grew up on a ranch in South Dakota, so it's not like I had a silver spoon in my mouth or anything. So I had to rely on the fans of Casey. So I had to reach out. Charlie Daniels donated a signed fiddle that we raffled off. We did, GoFundMe, Kickstarter. I did T-shirt sales. I physically went to rodeos and did fundraising. So it was a lot of work, but there was a lot of fans out there. It was just a matter of finding them and trying to raise that money to help do that and get it done. And we got it done, which is the most important thing, and now we're just trying to take that next step, which is, getting it hopefully on TV or maybe available like on Blu-ray or DVD.
Well, and it's timely right now because so many in that generation and the next generation are passing away. We lost several this last year, so I think the urgency to capture his life in film was on the hearts of everybody, and I think that's why it maybe even probably only took 3 years.
Yeah. It makes you move faster, that's for sure. But I also wanted, it's interesting you say that. I definitely want the rodeo crowd and the Western ranchers, farmers, the people that really, are drawn to rodeo to love the film, of course. But I wanted to do what Casey did, was go beyond that. I wanted people that had no clue, had never been to a rodeo, and have them enjoy it because it's just a human interest story. Yeah, he was a rodeo cowboy. But
he was kind of an interesting dude just all around.
Yes, and that was my main goal, is to make him appeal to someone that lived in San Francisco, you know.
And he was synonymous with that purple Cadillac, purple chaps, that bib shirt. And I'm certain whenever Casey rolled into town, whether it was a rodeo town or not, somebody went, "Oh, wow, who is that?"
Who is that cowboy?
He was onto something with purple. I've made some T-shirts that were like purple, and of course now I'm sort of drawn to purple a little bit. And it's crazy when you don't see men really wear purple a whole lot, and when you do, people look. And when I first started wearing purple more frequently, I noticed that, and I was like, yeah, Casey, you were pretty smart. You know what you were doing.
Marketing.
Granted, he was a handsome guy and just had that charisma, but there's something about purple on a man that definitely draws the eye of a woman, I'll be honest.
Well, and Almeda, I want to bring you into the conversation a little bit because you raised your family. You're from North Central Montana, and one of these interesting facts, and maybe I knew it, maybe I forgot it, but speaking of, intriguing men, you're married to a previous Marlboro man.
That's correct, I am. His name's Merritt Bradshaw. He was one of many Marlboro men. There were a lot of them. And his campaign for Marlboro was in the 90s. And that was, of course, after cigarette advertising was banned from television and such. So his campaign went to Japan and foreign markets. So, So that's why you haven't ever seen my husband around.
Well, Almeda, talking about that, it just jogged my memory. I remember we took a load of bucking horses over to the coast in Oregon, and it may have been your husband over there because this was going to Japan, and it was Marlboro commercial.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'll be darned. I don't know. It could have been. Could have been.
And I know that you've been working on several projects. You've produced several albums, but share with our audience and our listeners a little bit about your background, being from Montana and, where your music is inspired from.
Well, my music is inspired from the Western lifestyle, of course, and I would like to just talk about, if I could, my latest project because it just dovetails perfectly into what Justin is doing here. And I am also paying tribute to an individual. His name is Larry Deaver. And he was the sheriff of Cochise County down in Arizona. And he was killed and in a mysterious car wreck. And but anyway, when I learned about him and the story behind all of that, I was really compelled to tell his story because here was an individual who was worthy of folks knowing who he was. He was actually on the national political scene. He had been back in Washington a number of times and working towards getting control over the Mexican border. But I just thought this man's story needed to be told, and so I told it what I knew and what I could within the song Larry Deaver Did.
And that is something that you have such a huge following with. You are not just a singer. You are an amazing, amazing award-winning storyteller, writer. Tell us about your last 2017.
Oh, okay. Well, my last full-length album was titled Lovers, Wives, and Mothers, A Western Woman's Voice, and it basically told stories from a woman's point of view. Some of them were about true historical women, and that album actually did really well. I was very, very pleased. It was nominated by 3 different Western organizations, Western Writers of America, recognized Parker Eyes of Blue, about Cynthia Ann Parker of Texas, and then the Academy of Western Artists recognized the album for Album of the Year, and the Western Music Association recognized my song Heavenly Here With You for Song of the Year. So anyway, that was a wonderful project, and I was really blessed by all that. So
well, we're going to look forward to hearing Almeda perform her song about her tribute to Larry Deavers. And we just have a minute or so left before we close out, and we'll be right back again. But real quickly, the two of you, you're both sharing the story of someone that was stepping out in their field and doing important things in their lives. And when we come back a little later, Justin, we'll visit with you a little bit more about the film itself and how you did put it together. And it's been receiving awards as well, so we're thrilled about that.
Well, and one question before we go to break. When you're performing an album like you've just created for your friend or that you're paying the tribute to, did it take you very long to write those songs? Real quick, how long did it take you to write a song?
Well, that was one of those very quick ones. Actually, when we were in Sierra Vista, last year, I ended up getting the book. My husband was reading it and reading segments of it to me, and I just was really compelled I wrote the story actually within one day.
Wow.
And I performed it at every one of my sets the following weekend at the Cochise County Cowboy Gathering in Sierra Vista. And it was an amazing God gift. There was no doubt about it. So.
Well, there's so much to say about a storyteller. We talk about on She's Gone Country that we share the stories behind the stories, and that's a lot what you guys do, just in a different form. And there's so many great people doing that, and there's so much history that we can share, or so many stories that are hitting that we need to put into, film, radio, whatever we can do. We are just sharing today. We are on the tail end of this WNFR. We're at Roper Cowboy Marketplace in Las Vegas at Mandalay Bay. And, I have to say, just real quick before we get back to our interviews, when we came down here at the beginning of the week, it was really important that we just kind of prayed over the area, just with everything that had happened a couple months ago. And I'm really encouraged that it feels really positive down here. So I'm hoping that all of us in the Western world are sprinkling a little cowboy dust on the area to the community. So, but today we are sharing time with Mr. Justin Koehler and Almeda Bradshaw, and both are storytellers in their own right, just different ways. And Justin, you've been busy with your film. It finally The Floating Horses, Life of Casey Tibbs. And I'm really excited to get back into the segment and ask some questions back and forth because, one, I know, Aunt Vicki, you've got so many stories that go along with everything that Justin told in the movie, through the interviews and the folks that partook. So I just want to turn over to you for a few minutes.
Okay, well, thank you, Becky. And I really do. Like I said, I was just so excited to hear that Justin was going to tackle this project. And, having, like I said, grown up through the rodeo industry and hearing the tales of Casey. But then, even more so, Justin gave us a call. My son and my daughter-in-law and I, we have family-owned business, Trust Rios Silver from Llano, Texas. Justin gave me a call and he said, Vicki, can you recreate Casey's world champion buckle? And I said, wow, you bet. We would love to recreate that. So that was a dear project we took on from the heart. Our designer, Richard Cobb, we call him Pee-wee, him and I sat down and we studied it, and we said, we want to make this just as glorious as it was when he first strapped it on his belt.
Cole Elsher he portrayed Casey in our reenactments, and the second he looked at that buckle, he thought that was the coolest buckle he'd ever seen. I think he wishes they made buckles kind of like that, championship buckles. So he was asking, where is that going when this is all done? We actually donated his entire costume, if you will, to the Casey Tibbs Rodeo Center, so it's on display there, which we thought would be kind of a fun gesture for the community and for the museum for all their support. But thank you for the buckle. It is beautiful, and it looked great in the film. And, that signature style with the nudies, rodeo tailor, bib shirt, the Lee jeans, who he was one of the first sports sponsors to be, sponsored by a big organization, to the buckle, to the hat, Greeley Hat Works. Trent, I think his booth is right in here. He's in here somewhere. Trent with Greeley Hat Works created an unbelievable replica of the hat. So along with what you did, we branched out to a lot of different people that really helped bring Cole's appearance and his part in the film alive.
Now, Vicki, just a quick question for so many of us that don't know the process. What is the process of recreating that buckle? Is it just a simple process?
Well, Bobbie, quickly, to recreate a buckle, silver comes in sheets that are 36 inches long by 4.5 inches wide. And being a buckle maker, I know that, we can get 8 buckles to a sheet of silver. And so we take that, and it's all done by hand, started by hand. We study the design, we look at the material options, and you just keep working it until you get it right. But it is, it's a very tedious process because it is completely made by hand.
They nailed it. I've seen the real one that's at the Rodeo Center in Fort Pierre, and of course I sent them a lot of photographs, and I actually got measurements from the Rodeo Center. They went in there and measured the real one, and it's spot on. You did a beautiful job.
Thank you, Justin. Casey's World buckle was a little bit bigger than the buckles you see today.
Right.
I think that's why Cole liked it.
Yeah. Well,
a little more silver on there.
And I think you picked the right family to do it just because I know how close Grandpa and Uncle Henry were to Casey. I don't think there's a few pictures that float by that doesn't have the three of them together. So, and speaking of that, I wanted to just share. We really wanted to share Deb's story. We really wanted to get Deb here.
Yes.
Deb Copenhaver actually made it down to the finals this year. He's 92 years old. He lives up in Creston, Washington, and he's become my surrogate grandpa. I mean, I miss my grandpa every day. But boy, Deb does a great job filling the gap. And he had so many stories. And Gray's like his other kid. And so we went up there in June, and we go up there quite a bit, but we were sitting there, and he didn't realize I was recording his stories. I had just hit play because I'm like, these are really good. And so then I said, hey, Deb, you mind if I record you? And boy, he just perked up, and the stories just started coming. And one that he told was about a match bronc riding. And my guess is it's probably up in Montana, maybe not, but they had got done doing the match bronc riding, and they went into the bar, and it was him and Casey, and it was 1954, and he was laughing, and he says, boy, them broncs had you all over the floor, Casey, and giving him a hard time. He says, oh, Casey did not like to be teased, and he said that he told Casey, he says, I'm going to bet you I'm going to beat you in the world this year. And Casey said, oh, no, you won't. And he says, well, let's just put our money on the table. So they both wrote checks for $1,000, and they left it with the bartender at the bar. And he said, well, Casey got me by $100. And he said back then, the world, that they won $1,200 in first and $1,000 in second. He'd won second, so he just hand wrote that RCA check over to Casey that day, and then said it comes with one condition, is that we can bet again.
You know, and you got to remember $1,000 with inflation. That's probably, someone probably can Google that, but you're probably talking around $10,000, a $10,000 bet. Wow. I would bet, something like that. So they weren't messing around. $1,000 when you say it now maybe doesn't sound like much. My buddy spent about $1,000 last night gambling, so that's not much. But $10,000, we're talking probably $10,000 if you were to place a bet like that. So yeah.
Wow.
They were serious about that, weren't they?
They were
serious.
And then I'm thinking, Almeda, I'm looking over and I'm thinking about all that you do to promote the Western world, and I'm thinking the legacy that you're leaving. You have several projects that you do, and I know what you shared a little bit about your most recent one, but you also have MTB Music Ministries. You have a 150 cattle ranch and seed and plant farm back in Montana that you work with your husband and your kids. You're very, very busy. How do you balance all of that?
Well, I just keep on going. I eat right, sleep a lot when I can. Exercise, I take care of myself. So a friend on Facebook just today says, don't you ever get tired? And I said, well, I do actually, but I take care of myself. But it's a wonderful life. I love my life in Montana, and we now are a little bit more retired and just have a small place on the Yellowstone River in Huntley, Montana, right outside of Billings, and have a few roping cattle still. My husband's still roping a few horses. But we're a lot slower, and that's nice, and we're enjoying it. Have grandkids coming along now, so.
Oh, grandma duties.
Yeah.
Aunt Vicki knows that.
It's so wonderful because people can relate to your music. They can relate to your songwriting. You're a real cowgirl. And when you tell the stories, most of the time people will sit there with tears in their eyes because it has touched a chord in their heart somewhere.
Thank you. Well, it is. It's a wonderful opportunity. I feel very, very blessed to be doing the songwriting, singer-songwriter, and working at this this time in life. And it's just really a blessing, and I'm honored and grateful to be able to do it. So.
Well, Almeda, real quickly, a question I have for you. You said, this time in your life. So when did you take up music? You've been musical inclined. You played the cello, the piano.
I've been playing music since I was little.
Right.
And I have a degree in various things. I studied cello through college. I'm classically trained, but guitar was my best friend all through my life, and I got my first guitar in junior high. So I really love picking, and I only started stepping out. Well, I've been playing and singing and writing as an amateur for many years, most of my life, and only stepped out in a professional capacity since 2008 when I went through a big change in life, and I just had to remake myself. And so I started doing what I'm doing now, and it's been successful, and I'm keeping going as long as the good Lord allows. So.
And I think that's wonderful that the good Lord gives us those choices in life, and there are, second options, second careers, second chances.
Exactly.
Now, I read where you are a Cowboy Idol winner.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about that. This is pretty cool.
Well, there's all kinds of fun little things you can do out there in the Western music world, and I competed in 2016 for Cowboy Idol Musician category. They also have it for Cowboy Poetry. But I won. It was a big Montana sweep, myself and another gentleman, cowboy poet from Montana. We took all the awards home. That was at the Columbia River Gathering in Kennewick, Washington in 2016. So
my tromping grounds. Right. And I'm really excited because, you know, you inspire me when I see that you're a self-taught guitar player because I know how tough it can be to learn different instruments. But when you're natural at it, it kind of comes second nature. I know my daughter can hear a song and she can go to the piano and play it. And we're going to get to hear she's going to play for us when we come back in our last segment. And we're going to get to hear. Are you going to sing from your tribute song?
Yes, I will sing Larry Deaver Did for you, and if there's time, maybe something else. Who knows?
Awesome.
Wonderful.
So, we just appreciate you guys. We have been spending the hour visiting with the producer of Floating Horses, The Life of Casey Tibbs. Colorful story, many great things that we got to talk about, and also Miss Almeda Bradshaw, country music from Montana, and she's going to share a little bit with you now from her latest tribute. So we're going to turn the mic over to her. Almeda?
Well, thank you so much. It's a delight to be here. This is Red Friday, and we are honoring first responders of all types, from all the way from firemen, policemen, sheriffs, and our military. This song is about a sheriff. His name is Larry Deaver, and it is specifically about him and pays tribute to him, but it really does apply to all people who are involved in first responding. Some men live for what is right, for the law of the land they stand and fight. Against the dark they hold the light. Larry Deaver did. Some men stand on sacred ground when their government they have found has overstepped its legal bounds. Larry Deaver did. Cross the border from Mexico to the States, illegals float. Someone should a whistle blow. Larry Deaver did. Against the graft of government, corruption, greed, self-interest, who would challenge bad intentions? Larry Deaver did. Sheriff Larry Deaver did in Cochise County where he lived, where Larry Deaver lived by his convictions. Oh no, he would never turn his back, though he knew the cards were stacked with the government against him. In Cochise County did Larry Deaver die for his conviction. Some men protect how people live for the good of mankind. They will give their lives in service, a privilege Larry Deaver did. Some men defend and they never fold, for the rights God-given they uphold. The rule of law with hearts of gold, Larry Deaver did. Sheriff Larry Deaver did in Cochise County where he lived, where Larry Deaver lived by his convictions. Oh no, he would never turn his back, though he knew the cards were stacked with the government against him. In Cochise County did Larry Deaver die for his conviction. A man of faith and principles, he stood upright, he believed in God and he had no vices. That is how Larry Deaver lived, and he'd driven that camp road many times, but the evidence smeared him by design. Yeah, they said he was drunk, had cross the line like Larry never did. No, Sheriff Larry never did in Cochise County where he lived, where Larry Deaver lived by his convictions. No, he would never turn his back, though he knew the cards were stacked with the government against him in Cochise County. Did Larry Deaver die for his convictions? Oh, did Larry Deaver die for his convictions?
Almeda Bradshaw, give her a round of applause.
Wow. Very moving.
Yeah.
Gave me chills.
Well, as she unplugs her guitar, I'm just so moved by the storytellers and the stories that they share. And, one of the things that really hits home to me is I saw a saying one time, and it really stuck. It says, in the end, we all become stories. And so you always wonder, who's going to tell your story? So you guys have done a great job.
Yes, you guys have done a phenomenal job. Real quick, Justin.
Bobbie, hold that mic up just a little bit.
So you have been in how many film festivals with your film, and how many awards have you won? Because it's difficult to get into film festivals, first of all.
Yeah, it's very hard. The film festival world is definitely, there's a lot of competition out there, and Floating Horses is a feature film. And as I was mentioned to you ladies earlier, you say a historical biography. It's not exactly the sexiest thing that rolls off the tongue. But Casey, I guess, was sexy. So yeah,
that's all the story's about.
So Casey's working that angle. So yeah, we're very grateful and thankful for how it's been received by festivals. We've been selected into 19, and we've won an award at 7 of those. And we've traveled, it's been all over the country, which is great.
And that is unheard of for a documentary, like you were saying. I mean, it's so hard, first of all, to get in. People are loving this story, not just for the fact that Casey was gorgeous, but it's a well, he was, right? I mean, if he was here today, it would be awesome.
He had it going on.
Yeah, he did. So it's so exciting for somebody like me who is really passionate about film and about the independent films and the story that you are telling. So I hope we can see more and more of these documentaries coming from you.
I hope so too.
Well, and it's funny, as you're getting ready to perform, he's up there, his mind's spinning.
Yeah, he's already on to his next one.
But isn't that true for storytellers, film writers, musicians? You guys are always thinking about what you can write or what you can film or what you can put down in story form.
It makes us a little crazy sometimes, but that's where the best ideas come from. You're just always observing, for me anyway, you're observing nature, you're observing people. I can just sit out by myself. I can go to a movie by myself because I'm taking in what everybody else is doing, because there's a story out there. Just life is a story. If you let it tell itself to you, it's there.
And Almeda, as you were singing, I could actually sit here and in my mind's eye, it's like when you read a great book or you see a great film, you picture everything. And I could see Cochise County, Arizona. I've been through there many times, and I could see everything that you were portraying and bringing to life.
Yeah. Well, it's a good story and worth knowing about. So.
Well, we're down to just about 2 minutes, and I just wanted to real quickly touch before we have to close out. 2 questions. Almeda, how do we find your music? And obviously with Justin, what's coming down the pike for you? So we'll start with Almeda.
Well, it's easiest just to Google my name, Almeda, A-L-M-E-D-A, very phonetic, Almeda Bradshaw. You'll find my website. My website is actually Almeda M2B Music. Our brand is M2B, and which to me is meant to be.
I like it. I wondered what it meant.
Yep. So anyhow, that's the best place. I'm on Facebook, and you can find my music on iTunes, cdbaby.com. It's all out there, so thank you.
And how about you, Justin?
And for us, we have a really nice following on Facebook. Just search Floating Horses, The Life of Casey Tibbs. If you have questions, you want to private message me, you want to catch me after this, I'll be glad to give you whatever answers I can possibly give you. But just thank you for all the support from you guys and everybody that's out there. Yes, there's a lot of lonely times sitting in an edit bay in the basement alone, and that sounds really weird. But I couldn't have done it alone. There's a lot of people that contributed to making this film happen and getting it out there. So just thank you to everyone who's helped.
Well, Casey and Larry's memory is alive and well here on the Roper stage. Thank you so very, very much.
Well, and Bobbie, Jeen, do you have anything before we close out? We have about 30 seconds.
Well, just real quick, we're getting towards the end of the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo, and this is the place to be. There are so many amazing cowboys and cowgirls, and they are all telling the same story. No matter if they're movie stars or just somebody working or visiting the NFR, they are about faith, they're about family, or they're about being united, pride for this country. And I'm just honored and blessed to be here, being part of it.
Well, I thank everyone for joining us today. That is it for She's Gone Country, the CB Cowgirls. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.